안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕코입니다. 오늘 쉬는 날이에요. 아침에 야간에 퇴근을 하고 12시까지 잠을 자고 이제 일어나서 지금 오후입니다. 오후 2시가 조금 넘었어요. 여러분 날씨 너무 좋아요. 하늘이 되게 맑습니다. 하늘이 되게 맑아요. 미세먼지는 좀 있는 것 같아요. 저 멀리 조금 살짝 뿌예요. 그래도 날씨는 되게 좋네요. 오늘 확진자 600명. 역시나 오늘 질병관리본부에서 발표를 했죠. 12월 7일부터 1월 3일까지 특별 관리를 뭐 한다, 뭐 특별 방역을 한다, 뭐 이렇게 하는 것 같은데, 그쵸. 요번에 크리스마스 연휴도 3일이에요. 그리고 신정 연휴 1월 1일부터 1월 3일까지도 또 3일 연휴고요. 진짜 정말 이제 갓 20살이 되시는 분들과 수능이 끝나고 많은 일처리가 끝나신 분들은 정말 놀고 싶을 거예요. 우리 작년까지만 해도 12월 31일 날은 술 먹는 날이죠. 술 먹고 9시에 이렇게 사람들끼리 모여서 놀고 막 약간 그런 문화가 되게 많았었는데, 올해는 그거를 못하는 실정이 됐습니다. 이렇게 가다가는 그냥 설 연휴까지 쭉 갈 것 같아요. 그래야지 내년 3월에 입학식을 하죠. 가장 중요한 건 진짜 입학식이 아니겠습니까? 내년 3월에 있을. 수능이 끝났고, 근데 요즘도 아니고 저희 때도 무조건 논술이 있긴 했었지만, 요즘에는 수능 끝나고 또 공부를 하는 사람들이 예전보다 더 많아진 걸로 알고 있는데, 모르겠어요. 열심히 하세요. 열심히 하세요. 진짜 못 노니까 차라리 진짜 공부를 하세요. 나는 뭘 해야 될지 모르겠다. 나는 진로를 아직 결정하지 못했다. 그러시는 분들은 그냥 영어 공부하세요. 영어 회화 공부하시는 게 가장 도움이 될 것 같습니다. 어쨌든 영어나 외국어, 영어가 굳이 영어가 아니어도 됩니다. 이 외국어 회화를 공부를 하시는 게 가장 좋을 것 같아요. 그리고 운동 꾸준히 하시고요. 어차피 못 놀잖아요. 나가서 못 노는데 뭘. 운동하고 영어 공부하고 그다음에 독서. 남자 같은 경우는 군대 가면은 독서를 많이 합니다. 저도 군대에서 책을 엄청 많이 읽었어요. 그래서 굳이 지금 독서를 하라고는 좀 애매합니다. 그냥 책 독서보다는 운동이랑 외국어 하나 공부를 하는 게 가장 좋은 것 같아요. 내가 진짜 아직 진로가 없고 정확한 뭘 해야 될지 모르겠다. 그다음에 대학도 좋은데 못 갈 것 같다. 그럼 무조건 회화 공부 하나 하세요. 근데 가장 추천하는 건 영어 공부입니다. 하지만 중고등학교 때 이미 공부를 열심히 안 하시는 분들은 백날 얘기해봤자 절대 공부를 안 하죠. 역시나 자기가 그냥 진짜 필요로 해야지 하게 돼 있습니다. 백날 이렇게 말해봤자 듣지도 않아요. 그럼 저는 CNN을 보면서 운동을 하겠습니다.
Just 100 days to mask, not forever, 100 days. And I think we'll see a significant reduction.
So, Peter, President-elect Biden is talking about really trying to push Americans to wear masks, social distancing, distribution of a future vaccine or vaccines. How optimistic are you that he'll be able to convince Americans to take these steps?
I think Biden is going to find it, unfortunately, quite challenging because one of the effects of Trump's administration has been to create a tremendous amount of distrust for the regular workings of government among his supporters. You can see this in the fact that they don't trust the election mechanisms that have certified Joe Biden as the president-elect. They don't believe the scientists who claim that there is climate change. And so not only among Trump supporters, but particularly among Trump supporters, I think we are going to see a lot of resistance to even the very obvious public health measures like mask wearing that Joe Biden is going to try to convince people to take.
You know, after COVID, Biden announced 3 other crises facing the U.S., the economic recession, racial inequity, and climate. Did you hear in this interview him proposing, concrete solutions for addressing these enormous challenges?
Well, he didn't have that much time in this interview. To be fair, he has laid out, particularly during the general election, some reasonably detailed proposals on these questions. I think that the challenge really is going to be getting it through the Senate. We remain in a very hyper-partisan moment, and although Donald Trump has lost the election, Trumpism has not lost inside the Republican Party. It is very much alive and well, which leads me to believe that a lot of Republican senators will oppose Joe Biden virtually no matter what, and that Mitch McConnell will be reluctant to allow much of Biden's agenda to have a real chance in the Senate. So I fear that although some of his plans are really ambitious, it's going to be really hard to get them through
스쿼트도
as
좀 하긴 해야
legislation.
되는데.
Peter, I want to turn to international affairs. You wrote this week in the New York Times that, quote, the Biden team should make solidarity, not
우선은
leadership,
복근이랑
its watchword for approaching the
파급력이만 할게요.
goal. In
영상
so
찍을
doing,
때는.
it would
그다음에 영상
acknowledge that
끝나고
while
나서
the United States can do
팝콘이랑
much to help
스쿼트를
other
하도록
nations,
하겠습니다.
its first obligation, especially after the horrors of the Trump era, is to stop doing harm. I kind of want to ask that in this op-ed, you argued that the U.S. should redefine its role internationally, not kind of dominating the discussion, but being kind of an equal partner, a member at the table among other nation states. Is that an approach that you hear the upcoming Biden administration taking?
No, I don't. The op-ed was actually a critique of the Biden team, which continues to talk about restoring American leadership. And my point is that that term is I think, outdated and even dangerous. First of all, the United States is now about 1/7 of the world's gross domestic product, as opposed to 50% in 1945 and 25% at the beginning, in 1991. We do not have the overwhelming economic power that we once did. We're a powerful country, but we're not hegemonic economically in the way we were. Secondly, I think it is many people around the world will rightly say, why do Americans believe they have the moral right to claim leadership given the policies that they have been pursuing? The United States has been taking a wrecking ball to many of the institutions and norms that the world needs for common global welfare. We're the only country that left the Paris Climate Accord. We left the Iran nuclear deal. We left the World Health Organization in the middle of a pandemic. We've basically stopped the World Trade Organization from functioning by not allowing them to appoint any new judges. Our post 9/11 wars have, according to Brown University, created 37 million refugees. So it seems to me a certain degree of humility would stand us in good stead. We can be a cooperative partner with other countries, but we need to focus less on setting the rules and more on abiding by the rules.
We had 8 years of Obama leading from behind. We had Trump, America first. We'll be watching to see what President-elect Biden will bring to the international sphere. Peter Beinart, thank you very much for speaking with me.
My pleasure.
Now, Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka, is offering to publicly take the coronavirus vaccine to help endorse its safety. It's just the latest sign that she may not be away from Washington for very long after her father's administration ends. So what could the future hold for the president's adult children after the White House? CNN's Kate Bennett reports.
When January 20th ushers out President Donald Trump, it does the same for his three eldest children, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and Ivanka Trump. The Trump kids, along with Tiffany Trump, spent Thanksgiving at Camp David, the rustic Maryland presidential retreat not often used during this administration. A far cry from opulent family Thanksgivings at Mar-a-Lago or the White House, where President Trump dined with Melania Trump. The use of taxpayer dollars for a Thanksgiving just for the kids, with Secret Service protection and Camp David staff called into work the visit, smacks of the privileges they have enjoyed and will shortly lose. Each Trump child now faces a different future path than the one they were on pre-White House. Donald Trump Jr., before in the shadows of Trump's public appearances.
Don, tell them what you're looking for.
You'll be judged on 3 criteria.
Now a Republican firebrand.
I'm outraged about
아, 다른 집에서 무슨 요리를 하나 봐요.
American dream to countries that hate our guts for the sake of PC
냄새 너무 이상한데?
One source telling CNN Jr. is, quote, the future of the base. Sources tell CNN Trump Jr. will also return to his day job at the Trump Organization to try to expand global properties. The challenges could be many. His father has disparaged world leaders, and Jr. himself has used his social media to push conspiracy theories, to the point that Twitter even suspended him. Trump org faces its own struggle.
It's hard to believe. After 4 years, it's hard to believe we're back here, guys.
Which will be Eric Trump's assignment, according to those familiar with his role, trying to pivot a luxury real estate and hospitality company and corral the 70+ million voters who supported his father into now supporting his father's business. As Trump says, we'll see what happens. And while
잠깐
neither Eric
창문을
nor Don Jr.
열고
are thinking about
환기를
entering
틀어놨습니다.
politics
아,
now,
환기를 좀
their
해야겠어.
sister,
추워,
Trump,
씨.
seems poised to take her
운동하겠습니다.
leading approach to the Trump
추워.
platform.
Washington has not changed Donald Trump. Donald Trump has changed Washington.
While Don Jr. has been whipping up the base back home, Ivanka spent much of the last 4 years on obscure diplomacy missions, with plenty of photo opportunities to discuss things like economic support for women-owned businesses.
Are you sure that what works for you as a first daughter will also work for every other woman in the world?
추워, 씨.
No, I think we represent 50% of the population, so there is no one size fits all when you think about women.
Or portray herself on the same footing as world leaders at global summits. According to sources, Ivanka has a desire for a bigger political career, recently stating her pro-life stance and becoming more vocal in defense of Trump's policies, attracting his base, as now many moderates and Democrats will be a more challenging group to draw. Kate Bennett, CNN, Washington.
Just ahead on CNN Newsroom, a social media alternative for those who find themselves in Twitter jail. What makes Parler so different? Plus, many small businesses have been struggling to stay afloat. And because it's a pandemic, family businesses also have to worry about staying healthy enough to fight for their survival.
We wiped everything down, we complied with everything, and we still ended up getting it.
Oh.
It is a huge step in the fight against this pandemic.
Coronavirus vaccines will soon be available. What does this mean for you? Dr. Anthony Fauci joins Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta for Coronavirus Town Hall. The Vaccines, Saturday on CNN.
씨, 추워, 씨.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others.
With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
Award in London, and this is CNN.
Welcome back to CNN Newsroom. I'm Ivan Watson, live from Hong Kong. The U.S. set another devastating pandemic record on Thursday with its highest number of COVID-19 hospitalizations yet. More than 100,000 patients. That's according to the COVID Tracking Project. New cases are looking steady in the U.S., but it's a much different story in other parts of the world. Turkey and Brazil are just some of the countries where new infections are surging right now. Small businesses are often the backbone of any economy, but many of them are reeling because of the pandemic. Some family businesses in the U.S. that have been successful for decades, they're now on the brink, and restrictions aren't helping. CNN's Lucy Kavanagh is in Denver and has the following stories to share with us.
It's a Chavez family holiday tradition. For nearly 3 decades, the owners of the Sunset Inn in Pueblo, Colorado, have raised funds to buy gifts for homeless children.
Most of these kids, and if I don't do Christmas for them, they're not going to have nothing.
But now their Christmas plans are up in the air. 3 generations work at the Sunset Inn.
It's kind of like the pillar of our whole family.
But this bar and grill is one of countless businesses now crippled by COVID-19. Skyrocketing cases forced Pueblo County to ban indoor dining last month. The restaurant now empty, more than half their employees laid off. Takeout orders barely making ends meet.
What's your biggest fear when it comes to the Sunset Inn?
Losing what we built all these years, having to fear somebody else has it after we walk away and not being here anymore. That's, sorry. That's my most fear.
For over 15 years, the Sunset Inn was a favorite pub in Pueblo. But then in 1996, Chuck Chavez added sloppers to the menu.
Their menu rising to national fame after being featured in an episode of the Travel Channel's Food Wars.
The Sunset, to me, is my whole family, our whole life.
Their troubles began when the pandemic hit in March and Colorado effectively went into lockdown.
We are resorting to this measure, this extreme measure, at this time to make sure that people know that they need to stay in their homes.
The Sunset stayed shut for 3 months. Then in October, disaster struck.
An outbreak and possible community exposure to COVID-19 at the Sunset Inn.
11 family members infected with COVID.
We wiped everything down, we complied with everything, and we still ended up getting it.
All recovered, but the business is still struggling. Before the pandemic, the family says the inn could pull $5,000 on a good day. Now they're lucky to make $400. Emergency relief funding helped them stay afloat, but barely. And if things don't change, they say the inn may have to shut its doors in 3 months. New COVID restrictions imposed last week on Colorado's hardest hit counties, including Pueblo, could make a return to normal a long way off.
How has the hardship affected you?
Not sleeping at night, my hair is turning gray, constantly worrying about if we can pay the bills.
A fear echoed by the family and thousands of small business owners across the nation.
My mom and dad are the hardest working people I know, and it's just emotional to know that we don't know what could happen, if it was to continue like this.
Lucy Kavanagh, CNN, Denver, Colorado.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden told CNN's Jake Tapper he has asked Dr. Anthony Fauci to stay on in his role and to be a chief medical advisor in his administration. Here's Dr. Sanjay Gupta's take on that.
Dr. Fauci's obviously been around for a long time, has served 6 presidents, will serve in sort of a chief medical advisor role, a sort of role that he has done for quite some time. So it's, it's very reassuring. He's obviously been talking about this pandemic since the beginning, has worked with Ron Klain before on the Ebola outbreak here in the United States. So, I think he's the infectious disease guy we all turn to. It's great to know he's still going to be able to do that sort of work.
Now, there's an awful lot to sort through, and we'll answer your questions. Join Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta for a new coronavirus town hall, The Vaccines. That's 9 p.m. Friday on the U.S. East Coast, 6 a.m. Saturday in Abu Dhabi, and 10 a.m. in Hong Kong, right here on CNN. Growing anger among the people who grow food in India. We're going to find out what's driving farmers out of their fields and into the streets to protest. Also, China is Australia's biggest trading partner. So why is Beijing raising tariffs on Australian goods? Find out what's fueling the rise in tensions between the two countries. Stay with CNN.
Tech for passion.
These gloves, you put them on, you could play the music again.
Yes. Tech for sharing.
We tried one of your online tutorials.
Wow. Tech for precision.
It can be 3D printed for just under $60.
This is Tech for good.
Join me for stories of incredible people and the amazing technologies helping them achieve the impossible.
You can do anything. Tech for good. Saturday on CNN in association with Samsung.
It's the new travel ritual.
Yeah.
On the next CNN Business Traveller. Confusing COVID rules. What do I have to do? Trying to avoid quarantines.
The very word quarantine puts people off.
Empty airports, empty seats.
This is about confidence.
Unlocking air travel. COVID testing at the gate. We're facing testing times. On the next CNN Business Traveller.
Across Africa, businesses are working together like never before. All new on CNN, Connecting Africa.
Join me and let me join us as we crisscross the continent to show you how new connections are revolutionizing commerce in Africa. This month, Connecting Africa through trade.
When it comes to trade, we believe that technology is going to be the solution.
All new Saturday on CNN in association with Afrexim Bank.
Trust has been broken in our leaders, our institutions, even with our friends. And we are hurting. Now more than ever, we need to trust one another and rebuild those bonds. Because when we trust one another, that is when we can truly achieve great things.
Welcome back to the program. Delta Airlines says it will partner with the CDC to start contact tracing for international passengers coming to the U.S. They will be the first U.S. carrier to do so. The company will collect passengers' information on a voluntary basis. No widespread outbreak has been attributed to U.S. commercial airlines. And the White House Coronavirus Task Force wants airlines, not the government, to contact trace travelers. To India now. That's where the country's main transport union is calling for a strike next week if the government doesn't address the concerns of protesting farmers. Tens of thousands of farmers are demonstrating on the outskirts of the Indian capital, New Delhi, and so far, talks between the government and farmers' unions haven't made any progress. The farmers oppose 3 laws that pave the way for private companies to enter the market. So let's go live now to New Delhi, and that's where CNN's Vedika Sood joins us. Good to see you. India's had its own challenges with the coronavirus pandemic, Vedika. What would prompt farmers to risk exposing each other to
운동하랴, 집안일하랴.
to go out into the streets on
매우
the
힘듭니다.
outskirts of the capital.
지금 싱크대를 닦고 있는데
That's a very important question.
냄새
you asked.
오져요.
We're talking about tens of thousands of these farmers who are at the borders adjoining other states with Delhi. They're camping out there. They've been camping there for over a week now.
일단 팔굽혀펴기 20개만 하고 끝내겠습니다.
Being a primary concern for the Modi government.
저기 좀 청소 좀 하고 좀 쉬었다가 턱걸이랑 스쿼트를 하도록 하겠습니다.
For our viewers, most of them are not wearing masks. They're not maintaining social distancing. Two big worries for the current government in power. One is to persuade and plead these farmers to go back to their farms, not leave their homes and get onto the streets, which has proven to be extremely difficult for them despite two meetings that they've held this week with farmer representatives who want all the commercial farm laws to be repealed completely. And the other, of course, as you were mentioning,